All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm here with Bucky.
Hello.
And Joe.
Hi.
And today we're going to do a special review with deep thoughts based off the X-Men movie, X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, just so you know, there will be spoilers. Bucky has already written a review, and it's on Unleash the Robots right now, with a picture of Wolverine on the front.
With his bone claws.
Yeah, with his bone claws, because the events took place before the events of the Wolverine, you know? And I think that was one of my problems with Days of Future Past. It wasn't the movie. Well, the movie itself had its own problems, but the movie is, you know, a part of everything that happened before, you know, and that kind of messed me up. That kind of really confused me. Now, Bucky liked it.
I loved it.
And Joe hasn't seen it yet.
No, but I do want to see it.
Yeah. So I'm anxious to get his opinion. Joe, I'm also anxious to get your opinion on Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man. Bucky.
I had my problems with it.
Just like I had my problems with this. So maybe after this we'll also do a Spider-Man deep thought so we can determine what were some of the good parts and problems with each movie. Today, though, it's Days of Future Past. I was really looking forward to this because I like time travel movies. But,
me too.
But when it comes to this one I just couldn't buy it. Let's start with the first issue. You know, the whole time Logan is supposed to be in the past. Kitty Pryde, played by Ellen Page, is holding like this connection open. And he is there for days. He's not just there for like an hour or two. He's there for a long time, even though they don't specify how long he's there. So the whole time he's there, she's holding this connection and Sentinels are hunting them. But apparently the Sentinels are going to take a long time to get to them.
I don't think they'd ever said how many days had passed.
Right, they didn't. That is true. But you did get the impression that it's been a long time.
I never got that impression. If anything, I would say max 2 days.
Okay, you gotta remember, it's almost max 2 days just to go from New York to Paris.
Could be. Like I said,
You know?
it's like I don't know.
And there's a lot of traveling in this movie. New York, Paris, back to New York, D.C., you know? So there's a lot of things we didn't see. So I got the impression that they were there for a long time. Maybe at max 5 days.
Okay.
Maybe. But that means she is there, holding on for 5 days. You know?
Could be, but then again, it's like maybe it took kind of the Inception route, that maybe since it was a memory thing, maybe in the dream things went faster.
No, this isn't a memory thing.
Well, I'm saying as far as... Well, basically anything that happens in the past is like kind of within a bubble, you know? Whereas when you're within this bubble, everything you do within the bubble is going to affect everything outside of the bubble, but I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. Time travel is a very tricky thing.
I know, but that's one of the things we missed also. We never got one of those immediate changes. Now, I'm talking about the middle of the movie, not the end of the movie. Okay, obviously, at the end of the movie, some things are supposed to change, and I was happy with the end of the movie. Don't get me wrong, I did like that. Just it took them way too long to get to the end of the movie. When we were on the plane to Paris, I felt like we were literally on a plane to Paris, just bored, sitting there, waiting for the plane to land. You know, just bored, sitting there, waiting for something to happen.
Well, the thing is, to my understanding, there were like a lot of subplots that got edited out. And I feel, I mean, granted the movie would have been longer, but I feel subplots may have been important to the story itself.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Because I remember hearing that the main villain of the movie, Trask, is that there was a reason that they cast a little person in the role.
I thought Trask in the comic books was a
I don't think so.
Okay.
But the thing is, they said for the movie, they wanted so... Basically, they're implying that Trask himself is a mutant, but he doesn't have any special powers. He's just a little person. And he kind of feels snubbed by the mutants that have powers, and that's why there's like this animosity. But they don't really say that in the movie.
Right. They do kind of talk about that a little bit, where Trask says, I don't hate them, I admire them. And he thinks that they can be the element that brings us together, you know. In some ways, he wants to be like Hitler. Hitler bonded the Germans together, but he also had a common foe for them, which is the Jews.
And another subplot, obviously, that got totally deleted out was Rogue. Apparently, Rogue was supposed to have like a battle scene or two, but it got cut for whatever reason. And
I said we just see her holding
and
hands with Bobby.
the only time we see her in the movie is like 5 seconds.
Not even. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
And so, but then again, in a way, I'm not really that big of a fan of Anna Paquin, so I didn't mind not seeing her. But
I'm just glad they brought her back, at least for that ending part. Let's face it, one thing X-Men really suffers from is having so many people. You know, there's that old saying, too many cooks ruin the stew or ruin the pot.
True, but with like X-Men's 1, 2, and 3, they treated us to at least some cameos here and there.
Right.
And the thing is, I would have appreciated more cameos in the movie. It's like, in the movie, we see, very briefly, Toad, but it's not played by Ray Parks, though.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I don't think that was Toad.
It was. If you looked at the cast lists, he's Toad.
Because he looks younger. He looks older in this movie than he did.
He has more amphibious skin.
Right. Okay.
But I wouldn't say he's older. But then again,
yeah, the age was an issue. You know,
the ages of a lot of characters were an issue.
Yeah. Because let's face it, Jennifer Lawrence did not age 10 years, you know. But then again, it's Jennifer Lawrence. I love her, so I'll keep that. There was a major... Oh, okay, let's talk about some of the major problems with the characters themselves. First off, Bucky, this is burning him up on the message board. People are saying this over and over again. How did Magneto get his powers back? Bucky, take it.
Basically, those that saw X-Men 3 and did not stay after the credits are wondering this as well. Those of us that did stay after the credits saw that... actually, no, it was just before the credits, wasn't it?
It was around that area.
Wasn't it like right before... It
before
was the last thing you see before the credits.
Right.
Yes.
Last thing you see before the credits is Magneto playing chess, and he moves he slightly tremors a chess piece. So hinting at the fact that those that said that the cure was permanent were mistaken... Or the effect is only temporary.
Which was one of the problems I had with Rogue's scene. Rogue is holding hands with Bobby, and she cannot touch somebody. So did she, A, still have the cure and they're holding hands flesh to flesh? Or is she wearing gloves? I couldn't see.
I never really noticed that. I may have to see it a third time to find out, but...
Well, there was another thing with the Magneto. You brought this up to me when the X-Men 3 first came out. Remember he was a level 5 mutant?
Yeah.
He was stabbed with 4...
Yeah, that's just my theory, though. I can't confirm whether that's the actual answer.
But that's another thing, you know. So there's so many different ways you can go with the whole how he got his powers back.
Right.
And speaking of coming back, we all knew that Charles Xavier survived by putting his mind apparently into somebody else's body. What we didn't know, apparently that person was his twin brother.
Comatose twin brother. But apparently... I think this was like a deleted scene from X-Men 3. Apparently they were in class and they were talking about the transfer of one's mind into someone else's body, and Professor X did this speech about the ethics of it, whether it's ethical to do that or not.
That was not deleted. That was in the movie.
Yeah, okay, I don't remember X-Men 3 that much, so forgive me if I forget something.
You'll have to watch it again.
So yeah, that's how Professor X is in the movie as well.
So now it becomes one of convenience. He could talk about the ethics of putting your mind in somebody else's body. Apparently, somehow that cures them of their comatose condition. But then again, that was
apparently so.
Yeah, and that was one of the problems I had with this. I get in X-Men Days of Future Past, the miracle serum, we'll call it. You know, it basically is what Beast uses to control his mutation. Cool aspect. I liked seeing him transform from human to Blue Beast. That was cool. But Charles's back injury has nothing to do with his mutation. So the fact that he created this serum that can cure his backache but block his mutation doesn't really make sense. One does not lead to the other, you know? That was one part. And besides, you know, if he had a cure like that for Charles's back pain, back condition, why can't he cure all spinal problems then?
Because they'd be brain dead.
Well, the funny thing is that with Beast transformation, I couldn't help but think of Bill Bixby in
Oh, absolutely.
Because the thing is, I got the impression that
Incredible Hulk.
that Beast only turns into Beast when he's angry. That's the impression I got.
Yeah, well, when the adrenaline starts pumping and
is that how it works?
I think so, because
they didn't really explain that,
yeah.
But
well, the end was kind of funny too, because here he's being attacked by the Sentinels, so he takes an overdose of the stuff to block his mutation to the point where he becomes human now. And now, though the Sentinels were told, do what you were programmed to do, they never attacked Magneto or
Right.
Mystique until after they gave up. And there's only, well, actually that's not true. One Sentinel was given the order. The other Sentinels were given the orders to guard.
Right.
The
The only thing I didn't get, and one of the reasons I had to see this twice, is why the robots were obeying Magneto. Because the whole train scene, I totally did not get at first.
Well, I understood the train scene was putting metal inside of them so that he could control them.
Right, and I got that the second time. I just didn't think it was written very well.
It wasn't written very well because ultimately he was putting metal in them so that he could have a weakness.
Yeah, basically,
they could have a weakness.
It's like halfway through the movie, Magneto gets his own agenda. You know,
yeah.
And so it took me a while to realize what that agenda was.
Right. And that brings me to another problem I have with the movie. It's for a movie that's about, evolution and moving forward, it was a movie that kept going round in circles on topics we already heard before. Mutants are the underdogs at the moment. They are going to be the future. Mankind is afraid of that because mankind is afraid of what we don't understand. Charles and Magneto are at each other's throats. Mystique, I never really appreciated the change in Mystique. The idea that she was friends with Charles, as children, and that she had a love interest with Beast.
Some people did have a problem. When did she have a love interest in Beast?
Well, remember in X-Men First Class, she had a love interest with almost everybody.
Okay, I don't remember First Class that much because that was kind of the weaker of the movies. Only because some of the characters they introduced, I'm not going to mention any of their names. Angel!
Yeah.
And so,
but also, remember, that's how Beast turned blue. Beast basically just had big feet and was very strong. But it wasn't until he did an experiment with himself and Raven stuff.
Now, the funny thing is, in the comic books, and actually if you read the Days of Future Past comic book, you'll find out that the reason Beast transforms blue is because of an accident that happened at Roxxon Corporation, which is a corporation that actually has history with other superpower characters, like some Spider-Man villains, in fact, are victims of Roxxon Corporation.
Right.
But of course, since it's Spider-Man, they can't touch on that.
Yeah. And, it's,
crossing universes, Well,
actually, I think they could, because Sony... No, this is not Sony. That's right.
X-Men is 20th Century Fox.
Right. And Spider-Man is Sony.
I believe Spider-Man is Sony.
And everyone else is Disney. Marvel.
Mostly, because remember, there's still like Ghost Rider out there. There's still Punisher. There's still.
I thought, but did they really give all of those up?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
of course, their big cash cows are separated by 3 separate companies.
Yes.
So
I just can't wait till they all come home because let's face it, Captain America meeting Spider-Man, X-Men meeting the
everyone
Avengers.
wants to see that.
We want Secret Wars.
I wouldn't even mind a Civil War.
I think Civil War would be a really good one.
I mean, Civil War, I think, would be an iconic move to make now.
Yes.
Especially now in this PC age, because people. I mean, pretty much, I think you're going to be divided if you bring up the topic about are costume superheroes a good idea or not. Protecting the secret identity. Because the thing is, one thing the superheroes need to bring back is the secret identity.
They've gotten away. Now, that's one thing about X-Men. They've never really had the masks. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, they did a better job of keeping his mask on. At least, for once, Electro never learned that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. When was the last time any villain did not learn who the hero really was?
In the movies?
In the movies, yes.
That is a good point, because it's pretty much the Spider-Man trilogy, the Sam Raimi ones. All the villains knew.
Yeah, eventually. He even willingly took his mask off for Doc Ock, I believe.
Yeah.
Really?
He's like, Doc, it's me, Peter Parker.
And Mary Jane's right there.
And so, it's like, the reason of a secret identity is, I don't know, to keep his identity secret?
That is a discussion we're going to have again, because that is something big.
But anyway, going back to this movie, one thing I thought didn't tap the potential it could have was a lot of the superhero deaths that happened in the movie. I don't think they went to depth of the characters. I mean, we were introduced to a new character in this movie, Warpath. And He, I thought, first of all, had the weakest mutant power.
What was his mutant power?
Basically, track things at a great distance.
Oh, for the love of Pete.
Exactly. And basically, he's just like a wild Indian with a dagger, or wild Native American with a dagger.
Yeah.
And, which I thought, I didn't really care when he died. We were introduced to character Blink, who was played by Bing Bing Fan.
Yeah.
And I thought she was terrific in the role. I loved her power.
Oh, I love Blink.
And I like her character, but I didn't get to know her well enough to care when she died.
You didn't get to know her at all.
And I got to know her better than Warpath.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what?
And we're introduced to Bishop, who in the original comic book, if I remember correctly, in the X-Men cartoon from the 90s, he was sent back.
Right. With a group of people, too. It wasn't just him.
And so, well, think of that, he's just the one I remember, because he had the iconic giant M on his eyes, which it was there in the movie, but it wasn't prominent enough. That was his signature, was that M. Yeah. But no one else had an M on their eye, and it was the thing that he got the M because he was stamped for mutants.
Right. You saw people in the concentration camp stamped with the mutant symbol.
And one thing I didn't realize was another character we were introduced in the movie had the power of fire. I initially thought it was Pyro.
Yeah, I thought so too.
It wasn't Pyro.
We never even...
He wasn't named in the movie, but apparently it was Sunspot.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
And so it's like, it would have been nice if they referred to him by a name so I could care when he died.
Yeah.
But, Blink was the one I was actually most interested in. She had the coolest power. She could create portals.
Yes. And that's one thing I didn't get about her, though. Like, when somebody was trying to throw fire at her, why she didn't throw a portal in front of him to go behind him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but when you're a Sentinel, it wouldn't have done anything.
Well, but also, I mean, let's say it's not like she had a lot of time. She did do that once. She did open a portal in one Sentinel who was attacking to attack a different Sentinel. Iceman, finally.
We get the ice slide.
Yes.
Yeah, the ice slide, yeah.
Love that. I hope to see that more.
So now, of course, we need to do a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
We absolutely.
Because, I mean, if Quicksilver could be in both universes, why can't Iceman?
We also have Iceman having an Incredible Hulk mistake. Did you catch it?
No.
Now we're talking about Incredible Hulk, the trial of the Incredible Hulk, okay? Because when Iceman is a regular person, guess what he has on his face?
A beard.
When he turns into the actual Iceman, guess what he loses?
His beard?
In Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Right, he had the beard, and then when he turned into the Hulk was clean shaven.
Yeah, Hulk was clean shaven.
See, one thing I thought was weird when I saw Iceman is that maybe it's just that I'm so used to the conservative right when I say this, and this isn't an attack on anybody, I'm hoping not, is that here he is, he's a grown man, he has a beard, and he's still referred to as Bobby. Not Robert, not Bob, but still a little kid named Bobby.
You can't blame him for that, he still has a little kid face.
But he has a beard!
But that's why they put on the beard, because to make him look older,
so
he's still got the baby.
So refer to him as Robert then.
I know.
But Bobby Brady stayed Bobby all through the Brady's and all that. So I mean,
I'm just saying, it was one thing that I noticed up here. It's like he has a beard, and they still call him Bobby. That's weird.
You know what? It's actually not that weird because who's calling him Bobby?
Storm did.
Storm did, and Kitty Pryde. And obviously, at this stage, you can tell they're in a relationship now. That was the funny thing, is that because spoilers aren't allowed here.
I've already mentioned people that died.
Yeah,
so
at the end, in the beginning of X-Men Days of Future Past, you can tell that Bobby and Kitty and Shadowcat are in a relationship.
I never got that impression, but
well, considering that they're the only two left, I mean, Bobby had a thing for her back when
X-Men 3.
X-Men 3. However, he also had a thing for Rogue. You know what though, and also Rogue incredibly underused because I remember one time in the cartoon, in one of the X-Men Evolution, you meet Rogue. Rogue has a thing for Cyclops. Cyclops, of course, has a thing for Jean Grey. But
she had a thing for Wolverine.
It depends on which incarnation you're talking about.
I'm talking about the movies.
I know, we're talking about a cartoon now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's called X-Men Evolution, if that's the one.
Oh, okay, I never saw X-Men Evolution.
I might be confusing them. But one of the things they did, they used Rogue a lot. And one thing Rogue said is, do you want to know what my power is? She's battling the Blob. And the Blob said, well, what's your power? He goes, my power is your power, and I can have more than one. And so Rogue absorbed the Blob's power. She absorbed Cyclops' power.
Right.
She absorbed all these different powers, and she was just able to defeat these people because she had all these powers on her, you know?
Yeah, it's like since she was underused, I think it would be a good idea for the next movie to introduce Miss Marvel. Because for those that are unfamiliar with Rogue's character, from what I remember, and guys, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that during a battle, Rogue touches Miss Marvel to steal her powers, but at some point, I guess she couldn't let go, and because she couldn't let go, I guess her memory got erased, and she thought she was Miss Marvel.
Okay, that's a whole other movie you're describing right there.
From what I'm talking about the comic books.
I know, but that's a whole. You can take that one story.
Yeah, I'm saying that's like the only thing I really know about Rogue.
See, I think you just brought up a really good point, though.
Of course I do.
Maybe it's time that we stop making such big movies and start making smaller stories.
See, that's just it. I mean, people want to see a comic book on the screen. So give us a story that you can fit in 2 hours. You know,
I'm not saying that not, but we keep going the direction of the epic stories. This is Days of Future Past. This is past and
right, exactly. Just give us like a 2-issue, something that went through only 2 issues and put it up on the movie,
or maybe not even release them to movies. I mean, I would hate to say release them directly to DVD.
Not even
Netflix.
Release them to movies. It's like we have the technology now where we can make Hydro Man look cool,
Mm-hmm.
Because then one of the problems I had with, and this is just like a minor detail I had with Amazing Spider-Man 2. I get that he's Electro, he's made of electricity, he can look how he wants. But when we first see him as Electro, he reminded me of Emperor Palpatine because he had the hood,
Yes.
he had that look, and it's like, I guess I'm a comic book purist. I want to see the yellow and green spandex. People want to see a comic book up on screen. You don't need to modernize everything.
I know what you're trying to say, but the problem is what kind of purist you want to be. They have Ultimates now, and so you have 2 variations of Electro. Do you really go with the original, or do you go with Ultimates?
I don't know what he looked like. Okay, I have a little idea of what he looked in the Ultimates.
You know exactly what he looks like. You saw the movie in Spider-Man 2.
But I mean, as far as... but the thing is, give him a costume. Because he's supposed to be a costumed villain,
Mm-hmm.
It's like all the costumes that we've seen in the movies so far have been lame. Green Goblin in Sam Raimi's was pretty lame. It was made of plastic. Make me wonder how he moved around in that thing.
Doc Ock just wore a trench coat.
Yeah.
See, that I didn't mind.
I would prefer to some sort of an outfit.
How is he going to put it on?
Now, the thing is, considering I'm a comic book purist, I wouldn't have minded the green bodysuit that he always wears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But have the trench coat over it or something.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but the thing
some
is,
homage to the original.
Right,
Yes.
and the thing is, with these movies, one thing that you guys know that I love are Easter eggs. Those things that true fans of the source material like seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like... because the thing is, this movie seemed to at least touch on plot points from all the previous movies.
Very poorly.
So, I mean, granted, one thing that bothered me is they did reference the Wolverine, although they did get the line wrong. But they did reference it.
And that's okay that they got the line wrong, because it was supposed to be based on his memory.
Right.
Which he didn't have because he was on drugs.
He kind of remembered it, he just got it wrong.
Right.
But the thing is, like I said, that's just a minor complaint, but still.
But that does bring up one of the major complaints about this movie: continuity.
Yeah, basically, when I saw this, it's like, you're probably going to hear me say when it comes to, basically we've had, 7 movies so far dealing with just Wolverine, or, focusing on Wolverine pretty much.
They've all been focused on Wolverine.
But pretty much
this is 5.
At this point, I just say continuity, schmontinuity.
Yeah.
Just enjoy a 2-hour movie. And now, of course, with, Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's obvious they're trying to go with continuity.
Yeah.
Basically, with Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, though, they didn't develop the characters good enough. I have no idea how long Peter Parker and Harry Osborn were friends. We don't get how deep their friendship is.
You do get a good sense of it, though, because, they had to split up when Norman Osborn wanted to get rid of Harry. And but apparently they're childhood friends. They're really close. And I will say this: they did a great job of establishing that they were friends. You know,
right? But
they were
we
very
didn't
close.
know how good of friends they were when they first met on screen. Is what I'm saying. Is that they almost seemed like strangers until they went to the pond. You know, and they were skipping stones. And
I thought when they first met each other, because Peter was at the place. Here was one of the worst parts about Amazing Spider-Man 2, and this was a minor thing. I never really got the impression that Norman Osborn died. I never got that. I know because Peter came saying that he died.
Well, considering this is a spoiler thing,
yeah.
Because remember, they said this movie was an introduction to Norman Osborn,
right?
So he did not die.
Okay, they just faked his death.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the thing is that I thought he exited the movie well. Harry Osborn, I thought he became the Green Goblin too fast.
In a way, he did. Because let's face it. Does it really take just 10 seconds to learn to fly that glider?
Exactly.
Put on the outfit. He never called himself the Green Glider. He used some of his toys. Are they that? I mean, obviously, the Oscorp makes idiot-proof stuff. You can learn in 5 seconds how to do this stuff. I mean, before
my review of Amazing Spider-Man 2, there was so much I wanted to say about the movie, but I didn't have the space for it. I didn't want to do pages after pages.
Well, you're going to get your chance here in a few moments. When we're done with this podcast, we'll do a deep thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Because the thing is, one of the things I absolutely loved I didn't even touch on was the fact that if you do see it in 3D. Because there are more scenes where it shows Spider-Man swinging through the city, and it feels like you're there.
I'm going to have to try that. I saw it in 2D. I still liked it. You have to remember, I liked Amazing Spider-Man 2. He did not.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
It was average, you said.
The parts that I liked, I really liked. The parts that I hated, I didn't really care for.
Right.
So it's that's why I gave it a C-. Is that the parts that were good were really good. I thought the on-screen chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield worked.
Because, I know what you're saying about continuity. Continuity was a big deal for me in X-Men Days of Future Past. William Stryker, who was played by a much older gentleman in the Vietnam era, during The Wolverine, was replaced by some baby-faced 20-year-old who obviously was a kid. I mean, I get it, it's more in the timeline, but it just didn't make sense, especially the fact that he'd be a colonel at such a young age. I don't think he was. I forget what his rank really was. Logan, who apparently fought every war, was on some sort of leave at this point. Because we saw him in The Wolverine. In Wolverine. He was in Vietnam.
The only scene I didn't really get in Days of Futures Past was the military scene. When Mystique goes to the tent dressed as
some colonel.
Were they kind of just keeping the mutants in their own little tent?
Right. They were going to take them to, and I always mispronounce this company's name, Trask. They were going to take him to Trask for more experimentation.
Okay, gotcha.
Because Trask...
What were they doing in the military anyway if they're mutants?
Well, no, I mean, at the time, people really weren't aware of mutation. This is back in 1973.
Right, but the thing is, then if they weren't aware of their mutant powers, why did they use them when they were being attacked?
No, they were aware of their mutant powers.
Then why did they join the military?
The benefits, the schooling.
I'm sorry,
they were drafted. This is the Vietnam era. They'd be drafted.
Maybe I'm not wording my question good enough.
Let me explain.
I would think, okay, basically Mystique, she has no family.
Right.
So there would be no governmental records of her.
Maybe. We don't know that. There's a birth
record. Basically, she
still.
Wasn't drafted.
Right. Somehow she bucked...
See, that's it. I get the impression that if you're one of those... I don't want to use this term because it sounds bad. Those grotesque mutants, like the Morlocks or things like that.
Well, like Toad, right?
Like Toad.
Yeah, Toad was on there.
Yeah, and it's like, if you saw someone like Toad in person... You wouldn't think that person's a normal human being.
Well, you probably would avoid him and such, but you remember, that doesn't say he still doesn't have a driver's license. That still doesn't say he didn't...
maybe I'm just
Alex Summers looks completely normal.
Exactly, that's it. He looks normal. He looks like someone. Because the thing is, I didn't know who he was in the movie at first until he did his explosive power.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean there are freaky looking mutants who are mutants. So why would you draft them? The minute they get in line to be enlisted, you'd think that they would be thrown out.
Well, you have to have another reason. Remember, this is not like Captain America.
It's 1973. You don't need a reason.
In Captain America, they didn't want to take him because he had asthma, he had this sickness, he had that sickness. And as long as they're healthy people, they'll take them. Yeah, but remember how they got there is one of those things we'll never truly understand.
Right, like I said, it was just something I thought about as to why they were there.
Because obviously these people would have grown up in America. They would have been raised. They would have, either drafted or enlisted. And then the next thing you know, they go through boot camp. And when they're in Vietnam, that's when people discover, oh, by the way, didn't you know he was a mutant? It's like, didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like, suppose they're, standing at, what do you call it when they're all at attention in the morning and
standing at attention.
No, in the morning when they're all... Roll call, yeah. It's like, why didn't the black guy make his sergeant throw up or something like that,
Well, maybe you liked him.
And so, I mean, there are some mutants that can't control their powers.
These are people who... Obviously, these mutants could control their powers. And,
right, I'm just saying, the scene just confused me as to why they were there. That's all I'm really saying.
And the other thing is, it took blood tests for them to be there. They couldn't... I mean, for Toad, I'm sure, sight unseen for that guy who could make you throw up. They could probably tell he had that funny hair. But, Alex Summers, they obviously had to find him through a blood test and stuff like that. But yeah, Wolverine's backstory... Because, here's the funny thing. In the future, it was supposed to be 2023.
Correct.
Okay? Now, they're sending him back to 1973.
Correct.
In 2023, Logan was like, okay, I don't know where I'm going to wind up because obviously this is a case of having too many memories,
See, Logan strikes me as the type of guy that over the years has slept with a lot of women, so when he wakes up with a random woman by his side, he's got to get his bearings as to who he is and where he is. And
Right. But then again, remember, this is supposed to be 1973. At this stage, he's either supposed to be in Vietnam or... Because remember...
The only continuity issue I really had a problem with is that in 1973, he had bone claws. In 2023, he had his adamantium claws.
Right. And in modern day, or in the next distant future, he lost his metallic claws.
Yes, exactly.
In Bell Wolverine.
So we got to see him get them back somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I think Magneto even joked at the fact that it's
he couldn't control them. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and it's like we got to see that. He's got to follow that through now. For in order to me to be appeased about the adamantium, for me personally.
It gets even worse. I mean, 25 years later, or give or take, okay, more give than take, but in 20 some odd years, Wolverine runs into Rogue, and then Magneto runs into Wolverine. Now they've met for the second time. What, they don't remember that or something? Or... we'll talk about that in a second. That's
one final thing I want to bring up is that one of my favorite X-Men, who only appeared in one of the movies, is Nightcrawler.
Oh, he's right there. He's the upper right-hand corner.
And it's like I understand why Alan Cumming rejected the role. Apparently it took like 4 hours of makeup just to get him into his Nightcrawler persona. But, a picture of him saying, slain or something like that would have appeased me. I just wanted to know where he was at, because we just saw him in one movie and we never saw him again.
He was probably dead by this point. The Sentinels were
exactly.
hunting all
Just show us that he's dead.
It says right there!
Not in the movie!
Okay.
Remember, there are some people who have seen the movie that have never read the comic book.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to assume that, not to remember a bad X-Men
and something
movie.
tells me that Nightcrawler would be very hard to kill, considering his power.
Not impossible, though, apparently.
Not impossible, but still.
Because with Bishop at the beginning of the movie, you have to assume that was the last gasp. That was the last group of free people, that they were it. I didn't like how they introduced him. But to finish my thought on the Vietnam War, this is supposed to take place at the end of the Vietnam War. Therefore, the Wolverine, he gets, him and his brother get, posted and shot, and then General Stryker comes in, and it's still the middle of the Vietnam War. And don't get me wrong, I understand what a lot of people are thinking. Bryan Singer did apparently come out and said, okay, Wolverine, the Wolverine, that's no longer canon. We're making this.
Actually, to my knowledge, he said X-Men Origins Wolverine was not canon.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that, Brian. Nice try. Okay?
But I will say one thing, for me, the ending where we were reintroduced to two characters that we haven't seen for quite a few movies, Cyclops and Jean Grey. Yeah. When I saw that in theaters, everyone applauded when they appeared on screen.
Right.
They were like fan favorites. And I know it's been... when did X-Men 3 come out? It's been like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
About 10, we'll just say 10 years, give or take.
And Famke Janssen, she looks exactly the same.
Oh, yeah.
She is not aged at all. Neither has Cyclops.
Yeah, James Marsden,
yeah.
Having them back, of course, we don't know how they came back because they
reset the timeline.
He changed things.
So basically, X-Men 2 and 3 never happened.
We don't know that. They happened differently than what we remember, but we don't know exactly what happened. We still don't know what is Mystique's destiny. Did she break up with Magneto permanently? Because let's face it, what was Magneto trying to do? He was trying to kill Mystique,
Right, and that's going to create some trust issues, I imagine.
Exactly, so she's no longer really with him like they used to be. And
funny thing is that...
we don't know what happened.
In the scene where... basically the pivotal scene of the movie is when she's about to shoot Trask, And I remembered earlier when Beast was talking about how when you throw a rock in a river...
Yeah.
Basically creates a ripple, but eventually the river does still go along